Thank you. I'm Anthony Arnove. I'm with the Voices of a People's History of the United States. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you, to be in this beautiful theater, to be with the amazing team from Creative Time. I want to thank Teal and Sally and Nato and all of them for bringing this show today. Just a couple of things about what we're doing here today. This is a project that was inspired by Howard Zinn in his remarkable book, A People's History of the United States. It led to this project, Voices of a People's History, which we've been doing now for the last 14 years or so. And I hope after seeing this showcase of it, if you're interested in finding out more about how to bring it to your schools or communities, put on your own performances, you can find out how to do so in the lobby. I'll be out there afterwards, and there's folks from the amazing Haymarket Books out there selling books, and they've got flyers and materials and voices as well. I want to thank Haymarket, the crew here today, for helping us put on this show, and in particular, Roisin, Jesse, and Eric, who work behind the scenes to do so much to bring this all together. If folks could turn off their National Security Agency tracking devices, we'd be very grateful. We want to have a nice 30 minutes of uninterrupted programming for you here. A couple of other quick announcements. After the show, Hari Kondabolu has 2 comedy albums that are also at the Haymarket table that you should check out. He'll be signing his CDs. Wally Shawn will also be signing his book Essays at the Haymarket table. I also want to mention that Stacey Ann Chin's remarkable play Motherstruck, which you can get flyers for there as well, is running right now in DC at Studio Theater, and you can catch it until the end of October. So definitely check that out. And now please join me in welcoming to the stage Diva Mahal, Hari Kondabolu, Stacey Ann Chin, Laura Gomez, and Wallace Shawn. We begin with Nina Simone, who became the voice of a generation of African Americans fighting for liberation.
My skin is black, my arms are long, my hair is woolly, and my back is strong. Strong enough to take the pain inflicted again and again. What do they call me? My name is Ansara. My name is Ansara. My skin is yellow, and my hair is long. Between 2 worlds, I do belong. My father was rich and white. He forced my mother late one night. What do they call me? My name is Saffronia. My name is Saffronia. and my mouth like wine. Whose little girl am I? Anyone who has money to buy. What do they call me? My name is Sweet Thing. My name is Sweet Thing. My skin is brown. My manner is tough. I'll kill the first mother I see, 'cause my life has been too rough. I'm awfully bitter these days, because my parents were slaves. What do they call me? My name is Peaches. Thank you.
In recent years, the idealized and romanticized picture of Christopher Columbus has increasingly been challenged. Evidence for this more critical view comes in part from Bartolomé de las Casas, who saw firsthand the consequences of Columbus's conquest, which he described in these words, first published in 1542.
The Indies were discovered in the year 1492. 49 years have passed since the first settlers penetrated the land, the first being the large and most happy isle called Hispaniola, perhaps the most densely populated place in the world. There must be close to 200 leagues of land on this island, and all the land so far discovered is a beehive of people. It is as though God had crowded into these lands the great majority of mankind. And of all the infinite universe of humanity, these people are the most guileless, the most devoid of wickedness and duplicity, the most obedient and faithful to their native masters and to the Spanish Christians whom they serve. And because they are so weak and complacent, they are less able to endure heavy labor and soon die of no matter what malady. Yet into this sheepfold, into this land of meek outcasts, there came some Spaniards who immediately behaved like ravening wild beasts, wolves, tigers, or lions that had been starved for many days, killing, terrorizing, afflicting, torturing, and destroying the native peoples, doing all this with the strangest and most varied new methods of cruelty never seen or heard of before. And to such a degree that this island of Hispaniola, once so populous, having a population that I estimated to be more than 3 millions, has now a population of barely 200 persons. Their reason for killing and destroying such an infinite number of souls is that the Christians have an ultimate aim, which is to acquire gold and to swell themselves with riches in a very brief time and thus rise to a high estate disproportionate to their merits. It should be kept in mind that their insatiable greed and ambition, the greatest ever seen in the world, is the cause of their villainies. And also, those lands are so rich and felicitous, the native people so meek and patient, so easy to subject, that our Spaniards have no more consideration for them than beasts. No, For thanks be to God, they have treated beasts with some respect. I should say instead, like excrement on the public squares. The Indians began to seek ways to throw the Christians out of their lands. They took up arms, but their weapons were very weak and of little service in offense, and still less in defense. The Christians, with their horses and swords and pikes, began to carry out massacres and strange cruelties against them. They attacked the towns and spared neither the children, nor the aged, nor pregnant women, nor women in childbed, not only stabbing them and dismembering them, but cutting them to pieces as if dealing with sheep in the slaughterhouse. They made some low, wide gallows on which the hanged victims' feet almost touched the ground, stringing up their victims in lots of 13 in memory of our Redeemer and his 12 apostles. Then set burning wood at their feet and thus burned them alive. When tied to the stake, the cacique Hatue, a very important noble, was told by a Franciscan friar about the God of the Christians and of the articles of faith. And he was told what he could do in the brief time that remained to him in order to be saved and to go to heaven. The cacique, who had never heard any of this before, and was told he would go to Inferno, where if he did not adopt the Christian faith, he would suffer eternal torment, asked the Franciscan friar if Christians all went to heaven. When told that they did, he said he would prefer to go to hell.
The Civil War is presented in our history books and films as a series of famous battles, North against South, to free the slaves. But there were class divisions between ordinary people and the elite, both North and South. Here, an editor of a newspaper in Columbus, Georgia, writes bitterly of the rich who profiteered from the war.
Upon poor women and children, upon soldiers who are toiling and bleeding for liberty, upon salaried men who have not the time or the desire to speculate, the whole weight of this fearful struggle falls. Men of wealth who are hoarding thousands put up the piteous cry of exorbitant rates, more bitterly than ever, just after increasing the prices 1,000-fold. While upon ragged, blood-drenched soldiers, upon weary, despairing, heartsick women, and those whose only dependence is a pitiful yearly sum, the entire burden crashes down. Non-producers alone feel the war. Others can meet high rates with the same. Those who speculate not must shift as best they can. What matters life or death, so avarice can be gratified? What is honor unattended by wealth? What is liberty unless money can be hoarded by millions? What if the country be ruined, its women ravished, its homes desolated, its altars violated, and freedom forever perish? What matters all, so the almighty dollar may be amassed in piles? What care men of the present day whether their country sinks, so property may be secured, and the price at which liberty is bought rests as light as possible upon their patriotic shoulders? That's right. Pile up wealth. No matter whether bread be drawn from the mouth of the soldier's orphan or the one-armed, one-limbed hero who hungry walks your streets. Take every dollar you can, pay out as little as possible, deprive your noble warriors of every comfort and luxury, increase in every way the necessaries of life, make everybody but yourself and non-producers bear the taxes of the war, But be very careful to parade everything you give before the public. Talk boldly on the street corners of your love of country. Be a grand home general. And when the war is over, point to your princely palace and its magnificent surroundings and exclaim with pompous swell, "These are the results of my patriotism."
One of the most eloquent and uncompromising voices against war was that of Eugene Debs, the railroad union organizer and leader of the Socialist Party. On June 18, 1918, he addressed a mass rally of workers in Canton, Ohio, knowing very well that his words could lead, as they did, to his arrest and imprisonment. Here is the statement he gave in court before his sentencing.
Your Honor, years ago I recognized my kinship with all living beings, and I made up my mind that I was not one bit better than the meanest on earth. I said then, and I say now, that while there is a lower class, I am in it. And while there is a criminal element, I am of it. And while there is a soul in prison, I am not free. I am opposing a social order in which it is possible for one man who does absolutely nothing that is useful to amass a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars, while millions of men and women who work all the days of their lives secure barely enough for a wretched existence. This order of things cannot always endure. I have registered my protest against it. I recognize the feebleness of my effort, but fortunately, I am not alone. There are multiplied thousands of others who, like myself, have come to realize that before we may truly enjoy the blessings of civilized life, we must reorganize society upon a mutual and cooperative basis. And to this end, we have organized a great economic and political movement that spreads over the face of all the earth. The time is coming, in spite of all opposition, all persecution, when this emancipating gospel will spread among all the peoples, and when this minority will become the triumphant majority, and sweeping into power, inaugurate the greatest social and economic change in history. In that day, we shall have the universal commonwealth, the harmonious cooperation of every nation with every other nation on earth. Your Honor, I ask no mercy and I plead for no immunity. I realize that finally the right must prevail. I never so clearly comprehended as now the great struggle between the powers of greed and exploitation on the one hand, and upon the other, the rising hosts of individual freedom and social justice. I can see the dawn of the better day for humanity. The people are awakening. In due time, they will and must come to their own.
Sylvia Woods, a pioneer in the struggle of African American and women trade unionists, here describes why she decided not to sing the Star-Spangled Banner at school in 1919 when she was only 10 years old.
I was born March 15, 1909. My father was a roofer. When I was maybe 10 years old, I changed schools. On the way to school, I had to go through a park that was for white people only. We could walk through the park, but we couldn't stop at all, just pass through it. There were swings in this park, and oh, I so much wanted sometimes to just stop and swing a little. But we couldn't, because we were black. I would walk through this park on my way to school where there weren't any swings. Every morning, all the kids would line up according to classrooms, and we would have prayers and sing the Star-Spangled Banner. And then we'd march to our respective groups after this business. I decided I wasn't going to sing the Star-Spangled Banner. I just stood there every morning, and I didn't sing it. One morning, one of the teachers noticed I wasn't doing it. So she very quietly called me over and asked me, why didn't I sing the Star-Spangled Banner? I said, I just didn't feel like singing it. So she said, well then, you have to go to the principal and explain that to him. All of the children in the school take part, and you've got to do it too. Okay. I went to the principal, and he asked me why I wasn't singing the Star-Spangled Banner. Finally, I told him, because it says, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And this is not the land of the free. I don't know who's brave, but I'm not going to sing it anymore. Then he said, why, you've been singing it all the time, haven't you? How come you want to stop now? And I told him about coming through the park. And if I could not swing in those swings in the park, and if I couldn't sit in the park, and if I could only walk in Shakespeare Park, then it couldn't be the land of the free. Who's free? He didn't say anything. Then he said, well, you could pledge allegiance to your flag. I said, it's not my flag. If the land is free and the flag is mine, then how come I can't do like the white kids?
In 1937, a Bronx school teacher, Abel Mirapol, saw a gruesome picture of two black teenagers who had been lynched in Marion, Indiana. Afterwards, he wrote the poem Bitter Fruit, and he showed it to the extraordinary blues singer Billie Holiday, who brought the song to international attention. Though her record company refused to record the song, she released it through a specialty label under the title Strange Fruit.
Southern trees bear a strange fruit. Blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South. The bulging eyes and the twisted mouth. Scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot and the trees to drop. Here is a strange and bitter
Thank you.
So powerful. Here, Assata Shakur, a member of the Black Panther Party, which was founded 50 years ago this very day, as well as also a target of the FBI's COINTELPRO counterintelligence program, describes her experiences at Rikers Island Correctional Institution for Women.
There are no criminals here at Rikers Island's Correctional Institution for Women, only victims. Most of the women, over 95%, are Black and Puerto Rican. Many were abused children. Most have been abused by men, and all have been abused by the system. There are no big-time gangsters here, no premeditated mass murderers. There are no big-time dope dealers, no kidnappers, no Watergate women. There are virtually no women here charged with white-collar crimes like embezzling or fraud. Most of the women have drug-related cases. Many are charged as accessories to crimes committed by men. For many, the cells are not much different from the tenements, the shooting galleries, and the welfare hotels they live on the street. Sick calls is no different from the clinic or the hospital emergency room. The police are the same. The poverty is the same. The alienation is the same. The racism is the same, the sexism is the same, the drugs are the same, and the system is the same. Rikers is just another institution. In childhood, school was their prison, or youth houses, or reform schools, or children's shelters, or foster homes, or mental hospitals, or drug programs. The women at Rikers Islands come there from places like Harlem, Brownsville, Bedford-Stuyvesant, South Bronx, and South Jamaica. They come from places where dreams have been abandoned, like the buildings, where there is no more sense of community, where neighborhoods are transient, where isolated people run from one fire trap to another. The cities have removed us from our strength, from our roots, from our traditions. They have taken away our gardens and our sweet potato pies and given us McDonald's. They have become our prisons, locking us into the futility and decay of pissy hallways that lead nowhere. They have alienated us from each other and made us fear each other. There are no politicians to trust, no roads to follow, no popular progressive culture to relate to. There are no new deals, no more promises of golden streets, and no place else to migrate. My sisters in the streets, like my sisters at Rikers Island, see no way out. Where can I go? Said a woman on the day she was going home. If there's nothing to believe in, she said, I can't do nothing except try to find Cloud 9.
In March 1987, the political movement to confront the AIDS crisis found militant expression with the formation of ACT UP. A year later, the activist Vito Russo, a founding member, gave this speech at an ACT UP rally in New York City.
A friend of mine in New York has a half-fare transit card, which means that you get on buses and subways for half price. And the other day, when he showed his card to the token attendant, the attendant asked what his disability was, and he said, I have AIDS. And the attendant said, no, you don't. If you had AIDS, you'd be home dying. And so I wanted to speak out today as a person with AIDS who is not dying. You know, for the last 3 years since I was diagnosed, my family thinks two things about my situation. One, they think I'm going to die, and two, they think that my government is doing absolutely everything in their power to stop that. And they're wrong on both counts. So if I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from homophobia. If I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from racism. If I'm dying from anything, it's from indifference and red tape, because these are the things that are preventing an end to this crisis. If I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from Jesse Helms. If I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from the President of the United States. And especially, if I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from the sensationalism of newspapers and magazines and television shows, which are interested in me as a human interest story only as long as I'm willing to be a helpless victim, but not if I'm fighting for my life. If I'm dying from anything, I'm dying from the fact that not enough rich, white, heterosexual men have gotten AIDS for anybody to give a shit. You know, living with AIDS in this country is like living in the Twilight Zone. Living with AIDS is like living through a war which is happening only for those people who happen to be in the trenches. Every time a shell explodes, you look around and you discover that you've lost more of your friends. But nobody else notices. It isn't happening to them. They're walking the streets as though we weren't living through some sort of nightmare. And only you can hear the screams of the people who are dying and their cries for help. No one else seems to be noticing. Someday, the AIDS crisis will be over. Remember that. And when that day comes, when that day has come and gone, there will be people alive on this earth, gay people and straight people, men and women, black and white, who will hear the story that once there was a terrible disease in this country and all over the world, and that a brave group of people stood up and fought, and in some cases gave their lives so that other people might live. And we have to commit ourselves to doing that. And then, after we kick the shit out of this disease, we're all going to be alive to kick the shit out of this system so that this never happens again.
Gustavo Madrigal Pina gave this speech as part of the Graduation of Resistance organized by the Georgia Undocumented Youth Alliance in 2011.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gustavo. I am undocumented and I am unafraid. I was brought here to this country at the age of 9 by my parents. Ever since, many people have asked me what brought my family to this country. The answer has always been simple and always been the same: poverty. Poverty meaning an uncertain 1 to 2 meals a day, if there were ever any second meals. Poverty meaning that my parents had to make a life or death decision between living in the same conditions or go out and search for a better life. I'm eternally grateful for the choice that they made. I said life or death choice because our journey to the United States brought us a couple of times close to death. I remember the second time walking through the desert, my mom collapsed from the heat. Now, we were very lucky to have such generous people traveling with us who gave up their water so that my mom could drink it and get back up and keep walking. At the end of the journey, we were kidnapped by a gang. Me and my sister, we were 9 and 8 years old at the time. They didn't care. That didn't matter to them. They stripped us all of our clothes, our money, and our dignity. Luckily, we were let go and we eventually made it to Georgia, which would become my family's home. I don't blame my parents for the situation that I'm in. I'm grateful to them. I realize that they made the responsible and courageous choices that they had to make. that any parent in that situation, in those shoes, would have made for their kids. For my mom and dad, muchas gracias y los quiero mucho por todo lo que han hecho por mí. Why I'm sharing this with you today? It's not to gain your sympathy, but to obtain your support. To show you, but not only you, to show politicians and everyone that I am not an illegal alien, that I am a human being, and a human being with rights. In these troubled economic times, the state of Georgia has decided to make me and my fellow undocumented brothers and sisters an enemy and a scapegoat. How did they do this? First, they banned us from the top 5 universities here in the state, no matter how qualified we are to attend those institutions. And then they criminalized our own very existence and livelihood. Well, I'm here to tell the state of Georgia that I'm not going down without a fight, that I'm here to fight for my brothers and sisters. I'm here to tell the state of Georgia that I refuse to become a second-class citizen. I refuse to let anyone become a second-class citizen. I will put up a resistance as long as there is blood pumping through my veins. And I'm also here to ask you to join me and my undocumented brothers and sisters in the fight of our lives. We need to fight back. We need to organize through the struggles that we all share as part of the working class. And together we can win social and educational equality for all. I would like to wrap up with a quote from one of my favorite people. You might know him, Malcolm X. We declare our right on this earth to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary. My name is Gustavo Madrigal. I am undocumented, unafraid, and unashamed.
We end our program with the poem The Low Road by Marge Piercy.
One of my favorite poems, and I also call it AKA How to Start a Motherfucking Revolution. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up, they can bust you, they can break your fingers, they can burn your brain with electricity. Blur you with drugs till you can't walk. Can't remember, they can take your child. Wall up your lover. They can do anything you can't blame them from doing. How can you stop them? Alone, you can fight. You can refuse. You can take what revenge you can. But they roll over you. But 2 people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. 2 people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. 3 people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With 4, you can play bridge and start an organization. With 6, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. 12 can make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity and your own newsletter. 10,000 power and your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again after they said no. It starts when you say we and you know who you mean. And each day you mean one more.
Wally Shawn, Laura Gomez, Stacey Ann Chin, Hari Kondabolu, Diva Mahal,